Joining us today on the Everyman podcast is the definition of an everyman. He hails from the mighty Scranton, Pennsylvania. He was a walk-on at Penn State where he would go on to break the records for career touchdown passes, single-season completions, and passing yards. He made his way to the NFL as an undrafted free agent where he spent time with the Oakland Raiders, Houston Texans, Philadelphia Eagles, and Kansas City Chiefs. Most recently, we saw him suit up for my XFL New York Guardians for the most exciting half-season football man has ever known. You can catch him on his podcast weekly, The Underrated Hour. Ladies and gentlemen, it is our pleasure, Matt McGloin. Matt, what's up, bro?
Hey, guys. Thanks for having me on the show. I'm excited about it.
Nice. Man, we're pumped. And I tell you, I reached out to you on Twitter a couple weeks ago. I was listening to your show, and I saw it. I was like, hey, you know what? Sometimes I just go with the flow, you know, and I'm like, let me fire off a message here. And it's like, hey, let's do it. I'm like, all right, we're doing it. I text Daryl. I'm like, Daryl, McGloin's coming on the show. He's like, fantastic. This is great. Because, you know, right off the bat, you know, this is a Pennsylvania-based podcast. And, you know, I'm a Bucks County boy. And number one, you know, you're putting PA on the map here in the new era. This is great. You know, you're like you got to be one of the best athletes Pennsylvania's ever produced, my man.
I like to think I put Scranton on the map, but I think The Office aired before my career took off.
I was going to say, you know, you and Michael Scott are the big two experts of Scranton.
But no, man, you know, it's exciting, you know, being from, you know, Pennsylvania, a lot of great football in Pennsylvania. So, you know, coming from Scranton, a lot of great athletes in this area, you know, and I think that's just so much of who I am, you know, that mentality that, you know, bring your lunch pail, go to work every day, chip on your shoulder.
Oh, yeah.
You know, just embracing the grind. You know, for me, I think that's what being a Pennsylvania football player, that's what being a football player from Scranton is all about. So, you know, when I think back about my career, you know, I think how fortunate and blessed I am to have been from Northeastern Pennsylvania. Because like I said, man, you know, those characteristics and just that learning how to play hard-nosed football, tough football is, you know, is from this area. So, you know, really lucky, and, you know, it's home. You know, we my wife and I, we live here now. And, you know, it's a great area. It really is.
It is. And you know what? I've spent a little bit of time. My fiance is from the Poconos. We were just up that way this past weekend, and we spent a lot of time kind of in that Carbon County area. And, you know, in Scranton, what is it called? Where the train works thing, the Steamtown?
Yeah. The Steamtown Mall.
Steamtown Mall. Listen, everybody listen to this podcast, find your way to Scranton. Head to the Steamtown Mall, check out the choo-choos. It's a good time. It's beautiful, beautiful little spot. But, you know, I always do a little deep dive into our guests' kind of career. And, you know, you're one of those guys who you were like Mr. Sports in school. Like you were like the best baseball player, the best basketball player, the best football player. And then somehow you still weren't really like, you know, desired by a lot of schools to do the one thing you wanted to do, which was, you know, play quarterback, you know, at the next level. And, you know, I'm so amazed at the idea of the walk-on, you know, and for you to kind of, you know, I don't want to get into there's a whole nother podcast, but for you to come into a team and, you know, in a time of adversity, and then also be a walk-on, and then also not really be expected to do much, if anything. And now, you know, all my best friends, you know, were at Penn State right as this was going on. So like my boys at home, they're very excited that, you know, we're having this conversation, because it's like, you're like this kind of, you know, I don't want to say legendary figure, but like you have this kind of like mystique about you because of that time, and like your story, you know, and just throughout your career, there's been like, well, he's just a walk-on. He's just he's just the third string. He's just that. And you always find a way. So like, what do you credit that to? Is that McGloin magic?
You know, I think what's unfortunate is that you get labeled as a walk-on, you know, when you are a walk-on. and even when I earned a scholarship 1 year after I was on campus at Penn State, but yet even in my 5th year, when I was a starting quarterback for Bill O'Brien in Penn State, there'd be articles and they would still say former walk-on quarterback. For some reason, you can't seem to kick that. And I never looked at myself as a walk-on. I hated that term. I didn't like it. I looked at myself as a Penn State football player. The only thing that separated me from the guys that were being recruited by Penn State was that they were scholarship guys. I wasn't. But, you know what I mean? The work was still the same. Studying film, studying the playbook, lifting weights, conditioning drills, practice, it's all the same. I mean, what's different is that you don't get as many opportunities. So you need to make the most of your opportunities on a daily basis. You may get 1 or 2 reps. They may need to be the best 1 or 2 reps that, you've had all day. And, same thing with the NFL, being undrafted, the opportunities are less. So I was always somebody that just tried to stay the course. I prepared as best I could, and I believed that an opportunity would present itself. And when an opportunity presented itself, I could make the most of it. That was just kind of always my mentality. And I think believing in myself was big in it too, because I walk out in the field and you don't necessarily compare yourself to the guys around you, but I guess in so many ways you do, if that makes sense. Because when, I'd walk out in the field for the first time and I'd see somebody throw, I'd be like, I'm better than him. I'd see another guy throw, I'm better than him. And I would know it immediately. And it just gave me confidence, and it just allowed me to attack every single day, embrace the grind, and know that I was going to get a chance to play. And I think one of the most important things that gets underlooked is consistency. Can you do it every single day? Can you be that same person every single day? And it sounds simple, but it's hard to do. It really is. And a lot of guys can't do that. And, I just found a way to, like I said, be consistent and improve every day, and kind of force the coaching staff to say, you know what, we got to give this guy a chance.
Got to make it hard on him, man. You got to make it hard on him. Can you talk about just the difference between edge and ego? And the reason I say that is because we had a guy at Notre Dame by the name of Jeff Samardzija. He walked on, but I'm going to tell you what, when he got out there, he slashed everybody on the defense. You know what I mean? He played tight end, and I'm telling you, he went nuts when it came not just practice, but game day. It's you say consistency. Can you talk a little bit more about the type of mental edge you have to have that's different than ego, like bigger than life, but simple, just consistent thought process? I'm going to win the day. I'm going to win the down. Because when we watch you play in the XFL, when we watch you play, period, you got some fucking shit to you. And I think that goes a long way, man.
Yeah, and I think for me, starting off my career as a walk-on and then going to be an undrafted guy in the NFL, I don't mind saying it. I was a self-promoter because I had to be. Because there was no one at the time in those early days that was going to say, this guy's got talent, this guy's got ability, he's got potential, he could be the future quarterback here one day. Nobody was saying that. Nobody knew who the hell I was. I'm pretty sure in the first few weeks at Penn State, they didn't even know I was part of the team. So, in so many ways, I would make a throw and I would say, I'm going to do that all day. That ball's going to be there all day. You know what I mean? And guys see that. They see it every single day. Now, you can say that stuff, but if you're not making good throws, you're not making the right decisions, you can't walk in the huddle, spit the play out, and get up to the line of scrimmage and do the right thing, guys aren't going to believe in you. But if you're talking and you're complimenting guys and you're communicating with guys and you know what you're doing, they see that. Teammates see everything. It takes the coaches a little while to see it. But, just thinking about my days at Penn State and, even my early years in Oakland, I had gained the respect from the teammates around me. They had confidence in me. And I think that just made it so much easier for me to play. And, it wasn't something that just happened. Like I said, I was anxious to learn. I love talking with guys, love communicating with guys. But like I said, at the same time, if I made a good throw, you were gonna know about it.
Yeah, you bring up your time in the XFL there, Daryl, and so it's funny. Again, the Cosmic Canoe brings everybody together, and we were there. Daryl wasn't there, but my best friend Joe Spina, shout out to Joe, he's a Penn State guy. He's very excited to check this pod out. And so we get to the game early. We've got the press passes. We're down on the sidelines, and we're like in the end zone, right by the DJ. And like two things stood out to me. One was Darius Victor, just a fucking human cannonball. And I was watching him. I'm like, man, if he gets going, it's gonna be hard to stop. And he was on the show here. He was a guest, and shout out to Big Vito. And yourself, and we're standing there watching you warm up, and we could hear you talking, and talking with the fans. And like, before we got on the show today, Matt, you and I were talking about how those experiences kind of changed my perception of not only professional football, but just how media covers it and stuff, because I'm down there and I'm hearing now for the first time, like, what's kind of I'm like 10 feet away from you guys. You're doing your, working on your offense, like in the end zone, and you've got everybody's attention. There was a camaraderie. There was a real team atmosphere. And I turned to Joe and I'm like, dude, this is going to be good. Like we could tell, because we were on the field and we're watching everybody warm up. We're watching the players interact, the camaraderie. The fans were yelling shit at you guys. Like they knew where everybody went to college. And like, there was some like real classic lunatics that I love. You know what I mean? Speaking as a wrestling fan, which we'll get to. But before the game, you came out, you cut up like a promo, and me and Joe are in the press box. We're like, dude, this is going to be fucking great. Like everything about it. We're like, this is perfect. Like it's different than the NFL, but it's got people we recognize and we love. And there's something different going on. And like before anything even happened, there was just so much exciting shit going on. And then you cut that promo and I'm thinking like, man, I don't know how it's going to get any better. What was going through your head like when you saw some of those kind of changes that they brought to the game? Because obviously, like we said, like you're still going to be a professional and you're going to inspire your team and lead like you were. But then they're going to be like, hey, Matty, take the stick, get out there, cut a promo. Like, how does that work?
Yeah, well, it didn't get much better for me after that week one. But no, like it was exciting, man. Just I felt really good about it. It's funny too, because I had always told myself that I wouldn't play anywhere other than the NFL. And that, again, that's not a knock on anything else. There is a lot of great leagues out there. There's a lot of great ways to get to the NFL. There's a lot of great, routes to take after the NFL. But my goal for as long as I can remember was to get to the NFL. And when I had that goal, and then, once the Chiefs released me and I kind of knew that was it in the NFL, and I knew the XFL was starting up again, I had to think about it for a while, because it was like, well, am I going to be as driven as I was? Am I going to be as excited as I am? Am I going to be as emotional as I was, playing in the NFL? Am I going to want it as bad? And, I did. And that's the reason why I went and signed to play for the XFL, because I wanted to get back to the NFL. And anybody that tells you that, they were playing in the XFL just to play in the XFL and not to get back to the NFL is lying. Because like I said, that was my goal. I wanted to go out and prove that I still had something left in the tank, that I could still play at a high level, and that I was still a good quarterback. I was still capable of leading the team. And, the opportunity to work with Kevin Gilbride was huge for me. Had training camp throughout December, training camp in January. I felt good, throwing the ball well, and then, running out in that tunnel. And like you said, taking the mic and addressing the crowd, man, all those emotions and everything that you feel right before a game and leading up to the game, it was all there, man. So I felt great. I really did. It was an exciting time. As a player, you knew the XFL was going to be different, but they were so, I guess this time around, more focused on trying to make it about football. That's what caught my attention as well. But yeah, man, that was an exciting time. Kicking off the season in New York at MetLife, we had a great crowd. A lot of family and friends were there. And I was telling you this a little bit before the podcast. my wife and I, we have an 18-month-old, so having the opportunity to play in front of him was, the best accomplishment of my career. Does not get better than that. I know he's not going to remember it, but
yeah, but you guys will.
I will remember it, man. We got some nice pictures, which was fantastic. So it was a great day, and it was great to win, and I appreciate the opportunity that Vince McMahon and the XFL had gave me to be a part of that league, if only for a short time.
You brought the man up, and I have this, I like to visualize things. Okay. And one of the things on my big board, my big visualization board is a podcast with Vince McMahon, because I think he's an American treasure. I think he's an icon, and I think he's a one-of-a-kind genius that will never be appreciated until he's long been gone. And like, we are all a party to this gentleman's madness. And when you think about like the things he's done and the way that it's rippled out and affected just like the entertainment industry, such as like, I don't know, the president of the United States being in the WWE Hall of Fame and having like an extended run there, to Dwayne Johnson, new owner of the XFL. Like, it's just, John Cena, Hulk Hogan, Stone Cold, it's insane what this guy's done. First question. Did you get a chance to meet the gentleman?
I did not, and I thought I was going to. I really did. There was. I'm trying to remember correctly. I think I remember, people that work for the Guardian saying that, there was meetings and, there was talk of him, flying into the meetings or flying into training camp, so there was all rumors. So I thought I was going to get the chance to meet him, but unfortunately, never met Vince McMahon. Had the opportunity to meet Shane McMahon, which was great. I was before week one, just saw him on the sidelines, went up to him and just said, "Hey, nice to meet you. Obviously a big fan, appreciate the opportunity." And something that I thought was awesome. He was at every game.
Yeah.
Somehow, I don't know if he was.
He's surprisingly big, like in person.
He's a big guy. Yeah.
He's always. He's bigger than me, shorter than you, but who isn't? Guy's fucking 6'4" over here, right? 6'4", 6'5", but I don't know. He's like, 6'1", 6'2", maybe. Like, but
I bet he's 6'2", 6'3", but
he's got 6'3", which is like right around my size. So, height wise, anyway.
He's got some he's got some serious he's in good shape.
Yeah, I bet he's 230, 235. No. He's a big guy.
Yeah.
But like I said, so he managed to be at every single game. So I don't know if he was taking private jets to,
fuck yeah,
different games. But and it was great too. He in pre-games and warming up like that, you'd see him shaking hands with everybody, taking pictures with everybody. Just seemed like a real down to earth, awesome guy. Which at the time was great for the league.
I saw him getting kind of whisked away from a distance. Like, we were in the end zone and I saw him kind of coming up behind the sidelines, and we're there like an official press capacity. And I was like, well, I don't want to get my press passes taken away, but there is Shane McMahon, and I didn't get I regret not getting a chance to meet him. But like, I had this, like, I was like visualizing it on my way up to MetLife. I'm driving up there by myself. Like, okay, maybe Vince will be in town because it's week one and it's MetLife, and I'll be in the press box and we'll have this moment. And I'll shake his hand, and I'll get a Vince moment. It didn't happen, but someday it might. I just, we talked about this before. I would think like and I didn't know you were as big a wrestling fan as you are until I started listening to your show, and which the Underrated Hour, which we'll get to here in a second. But I would think just like if Vince McMahon wanted me to come in and like be the janitor, I would probably do it. Just because I'd be like, well, I'm going to work for Vince,
Yeah.
Like, how much did that factor into your decision-making? Like, yeah, I want to get back to the NFL, but also.
Yeah, it was definitely an awesome factor,
if I'm going to play for someone else.
Yeah. Like an added bonus, like, this is awesome. I hope I get the chance to meet him one day, because listen, I'm 30 years old, so. And as you mentioned, I'm a lifelong wrestling fan. So you got to understand, 97, 98, 99, 2000, 2001. and I talked about it on my show a little bit. That's the Attitude Era right there.
Oh, yeah.
So growing up, turning on television every single week, you're watching Stone Cold, The Rock, Triple H, DX, Kane, Undertaker, all those guys. Like, that's when wrestling was at its best. So like I said, growing up and being able to watch that, man, didn't get better than that.
It's funny, and I heard you guys talking about this in your show. Like, so the first time like I had ever seen anything pro wrestling, it was like my older brother is 6 years older than me. He was over at his friend's house. My mom took me to go pick him up, and it was a Monday night, and they were watching Raw. And it was the night that Stone Cold drove the beer truck into the ring and then sprayed Vince and everybody down with beer. And then, just drinking beer and everybody's going nuts. And like, I walked into that moment and my brother and all his friends are like, rah, going nuts. And like, I'm like, what is this? This is the craziest shit ever. And it's always like the only times my parents would ever walk into the room when I was watching wrestling, it was always like, always like I'm not even kidding. It was like the one time where they had like Triple H dress up as Kane and pretend to have sex with a dead girl. And I was like, I don't know what this is, but like, it just so happens my mom walks in at the time and it's like, God, or it's like Mae Young showing her old lady boobs or something horrible.
Yeah.
And it's always, luckily it's a lot. It's not like that anymore, but, I just thought that was funny. You guys were talking about that because it always seemed to only be that's when the parents would come by. I'm
just glad, I had two older brothers, so I'm just glad my parents let me watch it, But you're talking about the beer truck. I would love, because, obviously that clip is always, replayed and shown. I would love to know how they managed to do that. Like, I feel like all they did was measure it, because if you watch the clip, I'm pretty sure like the Titantron like moves forward when he drives the beer truck.
Well, he hits the thing so hard the whole ring slides. Yeah,
you got to watch like the Titantron. I think the Titantron like wobbles too.
Really?
Yeah. So crazy.
One time when the Royal Rumble was in Philly, it was the one that unfortunately Chris Benoit won. So it's like kind of been erased from the history books. We were sitting on the front row on the side where they were like loading like Eddie Guerrero's like low rider or whatever. But Stone Cold was doing the ATV thing at that time. And like we watched him like full speed, like ramp it up the thing and then just sit there, and he was idling it for a few minutes. And when that glass broke and he just took off, like he literally gunned it to the ring and then like almost hit the camera guy and like had to pull back. Like it was amazing. Like that guy's a lunatic. Straight lunatic.
Yeah, just awesome times, man. It was, I sat ringside once before too. We were when I was in Oakland. We got tickets. A bunch of us sat ringside, man. And now I feel like I can't sit anywhere else if I were to go to wrestling.
My fiance, a couple years ago for my birthday, I knew we were going to. She got tickets for SmackDown, but she never said what the tickets were. And she just told me like, oh yeah, they're in like that section over there, whatever. It's like, okay. And then when we get there, like they walked us to like the fucking front row. And I was like I was crying. Like it was so embarrassing. This was like 4 years ago, and it was like the most amazing experience. And then now it's like, I only get tickets down there. Cause it's just, once you see that up close and like what they're doing, I always tell Daryl, I'm like, Daryl, I'll be your manager. You've got the size and the athleticism. Let's get you in the ring. You could choke slam anybody who does anything, that's not to your liking.
There you go.
You know what I mean?
There it is.
It's like the thing that I love about pro wrestling, I'd love to get your guys' take on this as professional athletes, is like they're basically being asked to do anything that like a NFL athlete might have to put their body through in a given day. Plus, at the end of the show, go to their rental car and then drive 6 hours or 8 hours to the next town, check themselves into some shithole hotel by themselves. Like there's no travel agent. There's no team of like, okay, you get on the bus and you do this. Like, could you imagine playing NFL ball and then like driving yourself to the next town and then like, you know what I mean? Like it blows my mind. Those people can do that.
Yeah, I know I couldn't imagine it, but man, I'm pretty sure you agree. Like, NFL ball is just kind of a different it's a different monster altogether, which is why, even, I was a journeyman in the NFL. So like for me, I hop from team to team for, year here, 2 years there. So when I got out of the league and I went to Canada, went there for 2 seasons and then came back, and now I'm like trying to still chase, with arena football. And that might be a little bit closer to the whole wrestling deal where you have to negotiate having to put your body through that physical rigor and then hop back in your car and go do it in the next town, except for, Chicago Rush and, the, Orlando Predators and stuff like that. I mean, a lot more of that traveling had to be done on your own dime as opposed to a team, taking care of all the finances with that. So it's close, but it's still not like I couldn't even imagine going to a game, just racking your body for 3, 4, 5+ hours, putting all your stuff on, and then immediately after that game, going to travel to the next deal. So, that's crazy.
And there's no off time for those guys either.
No.
So it's that same schedule, week after week after week. It's.
We'll talk about the consistency of a professional athlete, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You got to think about it. Yeah.
Imagine the toll it takes on you, man. Mentally and physically.
Jesus.
Yeah, it's and how the times have changed. Like again, there's you can find it on the WWE Network. There's like it's called like Stone Cold Road Diaries or something, and it's from like 1998, and it's like they put a camera in his Bronco with him, and they just filmed like it's like he's out of character, but he's still Stone Cold. It's a very weird thing. But he's driving. He's like, yeah, I'm coming from I-95, Philadelphia, heading up to Newark. And he like reaches behind his seat and, grabs a Budweiser and he cracks it and he's drinking it. And like the fucking camera guy is filming it. And then not only did he film it, but they're like, looks good. Put it out. You know what I mean? Like we're in such a different world now than we were, in 1997, 98. But like there's like this, I don't know, there's this like little bit of magic still to me of pro wrestling that I find so fascinating. And now it's to the point where sometimes I'm more fascinated in these individuals like outside of it and like just all the crazy stories and the just being on the road. And I find a lot of similarities between like life as a musician or, as an athlete. It's really a wild bunch. And you had Sean Hayes, who was he's their strength and conditioning coach there on the Underrated Hour, which was a great time. But he talks about that training and the consistency and stuff. So, obviously one of the things that's worked for you that you talked about having opportunity and capitalizing on minimal opportunities. What kind of extra things have you done outside of like the game to keep your body always ready for that call? Because I got to imagine like, it's one thing to be on an active roster and then be waiting for a call, because you're at the facility with your teammates. But like if you're on one roster and then you're there for a couple weeks and you get released and you go home for half a season, like what kind of things did you do to keep yourself ready physically?
Yeah. So I always made sure I had some type of, off-season program that I followed, that I stuck to. I mean, I never missed a workout because, I knew I had to have some type of edge over my competition. Like, listen, I'm barely over 6 feet tall. I'm 205, 210 pounds, so I had to do everything that I could to make sure that I was at the best of my ability at all times. I had to strain every single day to get every, ounce of talent out of me, and like I said, I was never a big training room guy either. I would just go in there, get my ankles taped, I'd walk back out, if I was sore or, feeling beat up or anything like that, because I didn't want to be labeled as a training room guy. I didn't want them to, have any excuse to say, this guy isn't who we thought he was, this guy is a walk-on or this guy's undrafted. So, we really don't need him. He's in the training room. He doesn't work hard. I didn't want that to be a reason as to why I didn't make it. So, I mean, like I said, just constantly making sure I got my workouts in, making sure that I was in tip-top shape and at the best of my ability when I walked in there for OTAs, mini camp, training camp, preseason, or the start of the season, taking mental reps, when I wasn't in at practice, just staying into it as best I could, trying to learn, man. And I said, it was hard. It wasn't easy. I wasn't one of these guys that can just show up and play. Like I said, don't get me wrong. I believe I had talent. I believe I had ability, everything like that. But I knew deep down that I had to stay in it every single day, that I had to strain every single day, and I had to work as hard as I possibly could every single day to stay there. Focused. I had to be focused.
Was there anybody that you've played with, at any point, any level, that stands out to you as somebody that like you felt like, damn, they just show up and they're the fucking best?
I think I want to figure out how I want to say this, because listen, I'm not, here to compare guys or compare players or quarterbacks or anything like that. I've been around some great quarterbacks. I've been around, guys like Matt Schaub, Derek Carr, Nick Foles, Carson Wentz, Chad Henne, Pat Mahomes, a lot of great quarterbacks there. When I'm asked questions, best quarterback I've been around, or, who's the most talented or things like that, I think the best quarterback I've been around when it comes to talent and hard work is Carson Wentz. Easily. I just think it is, because he was somebody who had as much talent as I've been around, but he was also somebody that worked as hard as anybody I've ever been around. You talk about consistency. He was the same guy every single day, did the same stretches on the field, before practice every single day, warmed up the same way every single day, worked harder than anybody in the weight room every single day. And I remember the first time I saw him throw at a workout, I just thought, damn, like this guy's, at that time, this guy's the best quarterback I've ever seen, just combining all of those things that I just talked about. A guy like Derek Carr, just natural ability to throw the football, just a gifted thrower, can walk out there and just throw the football, man. Just a smooth motion, great arm strength, great person, he works his tail off as well. And then, you got a guy like Patrick Mahomes who, can throw the ball from 15 different arm angles, just a rare talent. I don't know what he's been like these past two seasons, because obviously I was there in 2018, which would have been his first year as a full starter. But it was one of those things where, during OTAs, minicamp, training camp, it was, he was the MVP that year in 2018, right? It was one of those things where it's like, they're not going to be, 8-8. They're either going to be 3-13 or they're going to play as well as they did. You could see that just by the way, he played the game of football, man. And obviously, he's the best player in the world right now. So, like I said, it was great to be around him as a quarterback. I was older than him and I was learning from him, which, shows you how special, that guy is. Yeah, I'm lucky because, I forced myself to try to elevate my game playing around those guys. I always, love to challenge. I may not have been competing with them for the starting job, but I was, personally, I was competing with them in my mind, because, that's just the way I am, the way I think. I think competition is extremely healthy. I love competition. And as I just said, being around those guys brought out the best in me. So, better quarterback, I thought I was a better leader, better all-around football player from being around those guys.
You talk about seeing Carson throw and just being kind of like, whoa, there's certain talent that's like everyone knows, like anybody that watches, even if they're not really into that thing, they're like, well, something's going on there. And a couple of years ago, I had the opportunity to be on the Heinz Field during a preseason game. And the Eagles were in town in Pittsburgh. It was Michael Vick's second year, as like it was the years, after the year where he came in and just kind of blew everybody's minds again for the second time in his career. So he's coming in as a starter, and Ben was out on the Steelers side of the field, and he's warming up, and everybody everybody's watching Ben. Oh man, there goes Ben, Big Ben. Look at that arm. And then all of a sudden, Michael Vick jogs out. And this is like not the end of Michael Vick, but the beginning of his final act. And he just like throws a quick little 10-yard dot, and then everybody stops. Like everyone, the water boy, the guy doing the cameras, like, and everyone's just like watching him. And then like after 2 minutes, he's standing at the 50-yard line, turning, talking to the guy, like his coach, and just like this, like this. I'm glad I could finally demonstrate it on video because I've told the story before, but just like the slightest flick of the wrist, like this, and it's going right to the goal line, and like perfect spiral, and everyone, and then Ben is like, got this like little teapot arm thing, like sometimes quarterbacks do. I don't know where that gets from you, but you hold the ball and they're looking like, oh yeah. And it was just like, it was amazing. Like, holy shit, that guy is special. And anytime, like, because the NFL is full of special people, and like, when I first met Daryl and just the sheer size of him, and then like, I realized like, well, if he wants to pick me up, I'm going for a ride, like there's no stopping that, and then I think about like all the other people that, and it's just the size, the speed, the intelligence that you have to have. It's something that I think people lose sometimes if they don't get an opportunity to watch it up close. Yeah.
There's a clip of like Mike Vick when he was playing for the Eagles throwing a pass to Deshaun Jackson, and like, I swear the ball's in the air for like 10 seconds. It's like one of the greatest throws I've ever seen. He just takes a drop. He takes like 2 hitches, and it looks like he throws the ball the length of the field. But it's just like I said, just guys like that with arm strength and arm talent. It's just, God-given ability, just effortless, but what's so special about those guys like Mahomes or a guy like Mike Vick is that they know they have talent, they know they have ability, but they also have the drive, the determination, and the work ethic to get to where they want to go.
That's when it gets scary.
And we talk about all the time, consistency. They understand they need to be consistent, and they need to do it every single day, which is why, those two guys are some of the greats. And I mean, as you said, there's a ton of guys in the NFL with great arm talent, and I'm sure there's countless guys that are not in the NFL with great arm talent.
There's some kid skipping rocks in Tennessee right now, like you wouldn't believe.
It's just, I mean, that's the thing. If you're asking me about where arm strength is on, a list of being a good quarterback, I mean, it's not in the top 5. I mean, it's got to be there. You have to have some type of arm strength, arm talent, arm ability to play, but, you need to be a good decision maker. You need to have great timing. You need to be accurate,
Let me ask you this on that topic, because as I'm realizing all the wonderful guests we've had on the Everyman podcast, you're the first NFL quarterback that we've had on the show, the first NFL quarterback I've had the pleasure of speaking with, and I've always found it interesting. I use the Eagles for an example. I'm not an Eagles fan, okay? Always enjoyed how hard the fans are on the Eagles, though. I'm always like watching it and laughing at kind of like they don't know how good they've had it. Like they've had really good quarterback play for like 20 years, and then they just kind of throw Donovan McNabb to the pile now. But I remember when it was a big controversy when McNabb like bulked up, right? And he got all those biceps, and then he wasn't throwing the ball as accurately, whatever. And I always look at a guy like Tom Brady or Peyton Manning or my boy Big Ben, not necessarily the most muscular of men, is it shoulder? Is there any bicep? Is it elbow? Like, where is all that throwing mechanic coming from? And why is it that it seems like you want like a more lanky build? Is it because you really just want that angle of approach with a long arm and a shoulder?
Well, I don't think I don't think you need a lanky build. I mean, look at a guy like Drew Brees, or a guy like Kyler Murray or someone like that, and again, I'm not sure what their training regimens are, or how they work out. But for me, I threw with my legs,
Really?
Oh yeah. I mean, you can't, listen, Mahomes can stand there and or Rodgers can stand there and just flick it, I mean, I couldn't do that, man. I had to make sure I was in balance, that I had a good base. I had to make sure I had strong legs, that I had a strong core. I had to make sure everything was in tune, so I can drive the football. I mean, again, don't get me wrong, I had a decent arm, but I needed to make sure everything was together for me to, put the football where I want it, to have some juice behind the football.
That's really interesting.
And I understood that. I mean, and then, like I said, I had to do everything I could to take care of, my legs, after practice, stretch, roll out, just really take care of my legs, because, sometimes in training camp, man, when my legs would go, I could feel, I don't have as much velocity behind the football. So like I said, I mean, I threw from the legs, keeping my legs strong and healthy, and then having great core strength, was big for me.
So you're really tightening up those hamstrings and using your core to throw the ball downfield.
I knew I had to drive, you know what I mean? I had to drive the football.
That's interesting.
I said too, like, last thing I'll say on that is, I think having poor lower body mechanics is a way to, really injure your arm fast too,
because you're compensating with just
you're throwing all arm, man, and I think you're just asking for an injury. And if you're throwing all arm, I just don't think your arm's going to last that long. It's not going to be able to take that punishment.
Well, I mean, it's just like drumming, and, a guy like Mike Mangini could explain it the best, but in drumming, people always think like you're really using your shoulders and you're swinging your arms, but really it's all on your wrists and all that. It's just using leverage and the angle of the stick to get the result that you want. It makes sense that it's the same thing with throwing the rock there. I guess. Go ahead, Daryl.
I just want to add one thing here, and it might not be to the tune of the physicality involved with quarterback play, but having played against someone like the greatest quarterbacks out there, like the Tom Brady's and the Peyton Mannings of the world, and to your point, Justin, you were saying we have our first ever quarterback here. A lot of that talent and a lot of that drive, coupled with the physicality, would be just the knowledge of the game, the pre-snap, the post-snap reads, having to throw off coverages. And if you come to the line of scrimmage, you get under center and you got, all these moving parts before you snap the ball, and then you go back and play action, and you turn back around, those motherfuckers are moving, and you still got to find voids, and you got dogs like me coming after you. You got
That's what I mean. I don't want to deal with you, man.
Like to me, like physicality, it's necessary, man. I'm sure you agree, it's necessary. But I have the utmost respect for quarterbacks just because of because I know I couldn't do it. You guys got to remember sentence-long plays and hundreds of them that change at the drop of a hat. You know what I mean? Like if somebody came with me, it's like, hey, over under plus 2 paragraphs, that's one play. I'm like, fuck no, forget that. I'm not doing that. No, let me go out. Let me get out of this. So this is not what we're trying to do. So just kudos to you, man.
Trust me, man. Trust me. When quarterbacks break the huddle, we know that guys like you, are going to be on top of us within a few seconds. But it's it, man. You break the huddle, you need to have a pre-snap routine. Break the huddle. I'm looking at the secondary, looking at the linebackers. All right, what's the front? All right, do I have, a motion? Do I have a shift or anything like that? And the snap of the ball, I need to see coverage. And as soon as I see coverage, I need to eliminate, routes or concepts that I'm not going to, because I got to go 1 to 2 or Daryl's going to sack me. And I don't want to get hit. And I don't want to get hit by Daryl. It's a long game. I got 70 plays. I can't have Daryl hit me 10 times and get 4 sacks.
See, people don't realize that, though, man. They don't realize the level of analytics that you have to have going on upstairs, whether you're in shotgun, whether you're under center, whether you just seeing all those pieces move, or just to help you out. Hey, let's get this motion to see if they're in man. If they're not, like for me, I'm like, fuck, I don't know what they're in, man. Like, that's just crazy.
You know what? It's a quarterback. I mean, quarterback play, you can talk about it all day, but I think another important thing about it is you have to have an internal clock. where,
Absolutely.
As you just mentioned, you get play action, you're back there, you're waiting. Back of your head, like, I'm going to get planted into the ground here if I don't get rid of this football.
I'm seconds
and
from
it's
death,
just like, you feel it. You're like, pockets caving in, like, I've had this ball for too goddamn long now. I either need to find somebody open, I need to escape the pocket and throw it away, or in certain situations, it's okay to take a sack.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah.
But I mean, too, like, you're not, as a quarterback, you're not looking at the rush either.
Yeah.
I'm looking downfield, but I can feel different color jerseys.
Right.
You know what I mean? I can still see if there's a red jersey or a white jersey. I'm like, I got another second, I can get rid of the football here. Or it's like, if you're running at me real fast, and it's just like, oh, you protect the football and take the sack. You know what I mean? It's just, it's a feeling, man. And, some quarterbacks have it, some don't.
But just like that awareness, and even Brother Jay, like you as a drummer, like I couldn't imagine being a drummer and having to actually be harmonizing with 3-4 other individuals, like at the same time. Hey, I got to know where I fit in here, where I'm just shredding it, or, just like you, Matt, like everything has to be in harmony, and you have to, like you say, feel those people. Like me, I only have one dude to worry about, and you, like, that's it.
Yeah.
Like, Brother Jay, you got a bass player, you got somebody on the guitar, you got the fucking crowd going nuts. You know what I mean? Matt, you got too many people for me even think about going nuts. Yeah, you got to figure that out. That's just.
You're talking about memorizing a football play. I don't know how you memorize, music to a 3.5 or 4 minute song.
Right? Like, how do you do that shit, Justin?
Yeah, well, repetition, man. Just like you guys, just reps, and then like every now and then be like, hold up, wait a minute, how'd that go again? And then it's like, okay, and then you pull up the iPhone real quick. So one of the things you said there I thought was really interesting was you're talking about you're eliminating possibilities. So when you're making a read on defense, on what's coming at you, your first thought is like what I can't do, not I should throw it to this guy because he wants the ball. Like you're thinking like what's already to play.
Yeah, I mean, I don't throw it to somebody just because they want the football. I don't care. But no, I said everything's based off coverage for me. You get up to the line of scrimmage, you have a pre-snap routine. All right, is it man? Is it cover 4? Is it cover 3? Is it cover 2? What is it? And then you go from there. It's like, all right, cover 2 are my cover 2 beaters in this concept, or cover 2 beaters I may have to check to a run. Depending on down and distance, or what situation it is in the game, or are we backed up? Are we in field goal range? Are we in the red zone? So a lot of those things come into play as well. And then you snap the ball. At the snap of the ball, you still have to keep your eyes downfield because, it is NFL safeties are good. NFL cornerbacks are good at disguising. They're, linebackers, D linemen. Everybody's great at disguising and then moving at the snap of the ball. So once the ball snapped, you still peek downfield just to kind of confirm if what you saw was correct. And if it wasn't correct, then you got to be able to think and process information in a hurry to get where you need to go with the football.
And I guess that's why guys can get gun shy if they're in a situation that's, Derek Carr's brother, the situation he came into with the Texans as an expansion league where he was just under fire all the time. And maybe he didn't have the opportunity to fully develop the timing and everything, because from the get he was like up and I'm gone,
I think it's tough too. You know what I mean? When, you're trying to look downfield, but either, could be disguising blitzes really well, or, D-line is just having a great day, or, D-line's doing different stunts or different games, things like that. And they're just on top of you, all game. Really forces you to kind of expedite the process a little bit when you're in the pocket. You want to get the ball out of your hand faster. I've definitely been in situations like that where it's like, hey, we're struggling here right now. I just need to find some quick completions. So I'm sure Darryl will tell you there's nothing more frustrating than when a quarterback gets football out of his hand.
Oh my God!
As a D lineman, you're just rushing.
Bro, you play Peyton Manning. It was like take 2 steps and turn and fucking run, because he's just gonna find a void. You just been like, Peanut, the fuck, man. Then it's nothing you can do, because That's just him, man. It's just him. That's why, like I said, like the 1% of the 1%ers are just quarterbacks, period. To be able to process all of that, and again, I'll say this just like you, Brother Jay, like as a drummer, anywhere, any position where you have multiple things to worry about. Like I said, I was fortunate. I could be literally just worry about one guy, game plan on him, and then have a day. You know what I mean? But if that was in God's cards for the day, but for the most part, quarterbacking, drumming, like I'm just looking like this. If I have to play and sing with my arms, then I got to double bass with my legs. Fuck that. I'm not doing it. So I can't. Just forget it. Like, hey, you guys, you can have your money back because I can't. I'm not doing that. It's too much. You know
Oh, man. Nah, it's not that. You could do it, Daryl. You're a smart man.
See, everybody. See, that just sounds like something that somebody would say when I know I can't fucking do that shit. Like, it's just ridiculous, man. It's ridiculous. Man, I could not drop back. Like, okay.
It's like when somebody tells you that beauty's on the inside, you're like, so you think I'm ugly?
Right. That's right. You know what I mean? But I like conceptually, when like I started playing football and I saw, okay, cool. There's a guy out there who has the ball and he's going to throw it to all these other fuckers, right? Oh, well, guess what? 11 other people are trying to destroy his life force. And I have to weave through all of that. And there's going to be a point in time where I literally turn my back to all of them. Nope. I'm hitting the note button right now. No, it's not happening.
It's takes.
Right, that's not even the worst part. Like, it's kind of like, well, the worst part and the best part as a quarterback is like, so there's times where you know you're going to get hit, you know, where you may have a free rusher or there's a miscommunication or something like that, but you have a guy open downfield. It's like, take one to get one. You know, it's like, I know I'm about to get hit, but I mean, this guy's open for a touchdown or he's open for a first down. It's like, all right, I'm throwing football here, but it's like, you know, you're about to get crushed.
Yeah.
But then you hear the crowd pop when you're on the ground. You're like, I got it. You know, like it's worth it. It was worth it.
Like, you're on the ground. You're like, did he catch it? Did he catch it? Is it a touchdown? All right, good.
Yeah, man.
Oh, man.
So speaking about the defensive side of the ball, who's the most, I don't want to say intimidating, but difficult to deal with or difficult to mentally manage defensively that you came across in the NFL?
I mean, it's, you know, Daryl will tell you, I mean, every single week, you know, there's another great player that you have to deal with, you know, there really is. So, I mean, to sit here and just really pick out one guy, I think would be unfair. You know, there's just, I mean, there's so many talented guys that play at such a high level.
Anybody that gave you a particularly difficult time, let me rephrase it, that had your number that you feel like.
That had my number?
Yeah.
I'm trying to think. I think I may have so one game I threw 4 picks against the Chiefs. I think I think Eric Berry might have had 2 picks that game. So I guess I would have to say him because he may have,
gotcha.
if I'm remembering correctly, he may have intercepted me twice.
We'll have to get the everyman statistical analysis.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to look up those
immediately.
Stats.
Yeah, look up my own stats real quick. Yeah, give me the media guy.
I mean, playing in the AFC West for 4 years, which I thought at the time was the best division in football. You know what I mean?
Yep. A lot of
preparing for, you know, guys like Von Miller, or, you know, at the time, like a guy like Tom Bali, or, you know what I mean? Something like that. It's just like, it's just.
Those Denver defenses then were stacked.
Yeah, man. I mean, Kansas City's defense was great. And even, even the Chargers were good. And I mean, I always believe that it's the NFL. Anybody can beat anybody on any day too.
That's the great thing about it.
You know what I mean? So it was never like, oh, we're taking a week off this week because these guys are, you know, 2-4 or something like that. That's never happening, man. And like I just said, there's always somebody that you are preparing for. There's always like, hey, this guy's got 3 sacks on the year, or hey, this guy's got 5 picks on the year. You know, we really need to be cautious as to where he is. And, you know, if you don't do that, it's going to be a long day at the office.
Yeah, that's, you know, Matt and I were talking about how my perception of the NFL has changed since getting to know you, Daryl. And Daryl, you and I talk about this at length all the time. And, you know, you're talking about size. Like when I first met Haj Shabazz, like this man walks into my house and I'm like, holy shit, you were a cornerback? Like you are the second biggest person I've ever seen in my life. How is this even possible? You know? And somehow that's what an NFL cornerback looks like. And everybody just keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And I always appreciate, like, Mike Tomlin, I just have a ton of respect for him. And anybody that I've talked to that's had an opportunity to play with him is always just, great things. But he always makes a point when he talks about his opponents, like the Pittsburgh media kind of mocks him for, like, really kind of ball washing these guys. But it's like, no, he understands the reality that there are savages on every NFL team, literal savages that will eat your lunch, and they'll all do it. And there's 3 guys behind them that will do it too, and a practice squad. Like, it's the NFL, man, is just it's an unbelievable business, unbelievable game.
It's your job. It's your job. And I think, a lot of people don't understand that. I think even the media at times, loses sight of that, I mean, this is what you do for money. This is how you provide for your family. It's your job. So.
And they get surprised when people are fighting for it or defending it or get hot, and we kind of talked about one of the things, kind of tie it back to the XFL here, but that's the thing that's exciting about the NFL to me, more so than, like, I don't know, maybe same thing happens in the Major League Baseball, but there's just that sense of urgency in professional football, and because of the violence and the stakes are high, there's just something special about that, and it drives those, we talk about all the time, those NFL Films moments that end up becoming little memories, of everybody's. It's really special game. So I want to talk about your podcast, man, here as we wind down the Underrated Hour. So, like I said, I've had a chance to check out a few episodes. I really enjoy it. And, it's you and your brothers. You guys kind of talk shit on each other. You chop it up about football, what's going on in daily stuff. And you guys do interviews. It's been cool because I see similarities in what you're doing. Like, you're utilizing your network of, people that you played with, or people that maybe you share, alma mater with. Shout out Tom Phillips. That was a great episode. He's the man. What made you get into podcasting, man?
So I was a broadcast journalism major at Penn State, and I've always wanted to stay involved with the game. I knew once that my playing career was over that, I would like to be honest, I'd like to get in the booth one day and call games. But we'll see. I just think I've been around some of the greatest players of all time. I've been around some of the greatest coaches of all time. I like to think when I was playing, I was a student of the game, that I try to learn as much as I could. And I also think that fans, as much as they love the game too, I think they want to learn a little bit about the game, and, so that's why, again, I want to get into broadcast. That's why I started the podcast. I want to talk about football, maybe fans that listen to the show can, maybe learn 1 or 2 things just from listening to the podcast about football that they didn't know. But at the same time, like you said, we have a lot of fun with it. We love talking about wrestling, talk about beer, craft beer on the podcast.
I know you're a craft beer guy. I got a Neshaminy Creek here. You ever had Neshaminy Creek?
I've had Neshaminy Creek before. Yeah, it's good. It's a good brewery. Yeah.
Yeah, they're right down the street from us here. Shout out to NCPC.
But yeah, so we kind of, when I started the podcast, I had the idea just talking about sports and things like that. But as we get going here, man, it's just, it's kind of what's ever relevant at the time,
Sure.
But definitely still talk about sports. But like you said, we've had, WWE strength and conditioning coach Sean Hayes on. We just had Tom Phillips on, who's a play-by-play commentator for WWE. So, who knows? Who knows kind of who the guest that week will be. But
you never know.
But it's fun. It's and it's fun that way, man. It really is. We talk about movies, TV shows, things like that. So we enjoy it, man, and we have a good time doing it.
Yeah, you guys have a real good chemistry and great rapport with each other. And I'm not just saying this because you're here. Like I was talking to Daryl about this afternoon. It's a fun time. It's a fun show, and that there's like that. I've got an older brother. And there's that at each other that only brothers can do, really know how to fucking annoy each other. That, is fun. I'm speaking from my experience here, of course, but I really, really enjoy the show. And I think it's off to a great start, and, you never know. where things can go. Cause I mean, with this show, we kind of started off like, I had this career in music and we started bringing some of the music guests on, and, we bring in NFL players and musicians. Then at some point we started like branching out, and, we get a guy coming on soon here, Dylan Dickstein, future astronaut. He's a PhD and works for Tesla or works for SpaceX. He's a rocket engineer, and he's a pilot and like a scuba diver and an EMT, and it's like the craziest shit ever. And once you get out into like this podcasting world, there's so much great, so many great shows out there, and there's enough for everybody. So it's like, if you guys listen to the Everyman podcast, you've been hanging in the Cosmic Canoe, you like the football, you like my professional wrestling is amazing rants all the time. The Underrated Hour might be for you.
Well, I think what's great too about having a podcast is, as I just mentioned, like, I mean, I like to, talk about or maybe teach, somebody something about football that they don't know. But I mean, even with our guests, I want to learn something too.
Yeah. We learned so much, and it gets to the point where like, I'm actually just asking for myself, like we had a guy on who, a friend of ours, Matt Halpern, who is a great drummer for band Periphery. And, he's into the ice bath things. And like towards the end of his thing about ice baths, I'm like asking my own questions about it, just because it's fascinating, and it's like a great excuse to get together with people that are, doing cool things.
Yeah, no doubt, man. I mean, that's that's what makes a great show. And, I think, at the end of the day too, that's what people want to hear. They want to hear, about the guest's career, their story, things they've gone through, adversity that they had overcome, things like that, man. I think that's what makes for a great show.
Absolutely. So, obviously you've got the pod going, that's going to keep going for the foreseeable future. Obviously from looking at you, looks like you're staying in shape. So what's on the plate for you, man? You want to take another shot? You gonna go for XFL 3.0? You gonna go back to the NFL? What are you thinking, man?
No, playing career is over. I had I mean, I'd like to think I had a good run. I really do, and this is somebody, this is, coming from somebody who wasn't supposed to play at Penn State. Yep. So to be able to play 5 years at Penn State, 6 years in the NFL, 1 year in the XFL, it was a great run, man. And like I said, sitting here today, I have no regrets. I really don't. And it's a great feeling because I know I worked as hard as I could. I know I got, every bit of talent, out of me that I had. Obviously when you look back, there are things that you're like, oh, maybe I should have, went this route or, did this or did that. But like I said, I have no regrets, man. And really proud of my career and, really happy with the way it went. Met a lot of great people, learned a lot about, the great game of football.
It's like the gift that keeps on giving, man. The game.
Oh, yeah.
Yep. Darryl and I talk about it all the time. Like, football brought Darryl and I together in a weird way that should have never happened, and football's given Darryl so much, and he talks about the desire to stay around the game. And in a lot of ways, that's kind of what I've done with the podcast and reaching out to these musicians that I've worked with over the years. And is my way to stay in that game without having to live my life out of a tour van, with 6 other stinky dudes. So, it's a blessing. And I'm again, the Cosmic Canoe, me and Joe Spino, we grew up together. We're sitting there at the press box, the Meadowlands. And I turn to him on my left and I say, you know what, Joey, if anything weird happens, at least we can say we were at XFL week 1 and we got to see Matt McGloin start. And he goes, yeah, man, for real. And like, fast forward a couple weeks later, the week that the XFL shut down, Darryl was actually coming to the game with me the next day. He had the press pass. We got him a pass made. I sent an email to Jared. Shout out to Jared, the press guy there. Nice kid, nice gentleman. I sent him an email at 9:45 because I'm at work. I see the world starting to shut down. NBA is canceled, and I'm like, hey, buddy, are we still on for Saturday? He's like, yep, as far as I know, I'll see you tomorrow morning. And he had a little pin for me. He was going to give me a Guardians pin. I was like, sweet. I'll get you that fucking pin. 5 minutes later, it's like, done. And I'm like, I jinxed it. I'm pretty sure I personally, in that press box, jinxed the entire planet when I said, if anything weird happens, we were here. So
you're probably never gonna get that pin now. They're probably
no.
or something.
Yeah, it's gone. Vince already sold it. Yeah, and we bought merch. Like I got the little Guardians like ball cap, and as soon as it gets cold enough, man, things going right back on.
Yeah, dude.
Rest in peace. But if anybody could bring it back for a third time, I'm sure Dwayne Johnson.
Hey, Matt, quick question though. Would you call games for the XFL? You think you would want to do something like that?
You're not the first person that has asked me that question. If the opportunity presented itself and the XFL wanted me to be involved in some capacity, obviously not playing, but, I would definitely, love the opportunity to work for the XFL. I think, not just myself, but a lot of guys that are still playing see who has purchased the XFL and who's a part of it. I mean, how can you not want to again play for that league? Like if you're an XFL guy this past year, you got to remember it's gonna be tough on those guys who are XFL guys or undrafted guys or even late round draft picks.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's no off season, there's no OTAs, there was no mini camp. I mean, there's no preseason. So, the year was shortened for those guys. So those guys still have a lot of talent, a lot of ability that could be on NFL rosters or that could be on NFL practice squads, man. They should have a chance to play somewhere. And, so hopefully, The Rock and his staff, hopefully they can get the XFL up and running for spring of 2021. So those guys have a chance to play, man, because, it'd be awesome to see some good football. It really would be.
Dude, it'd be even more awesome to see you fucking call an XFL game too.
Yeah,
it'd be amazing. It'd be amazing.
Awesome,
yeah,
dude. That'd be sick.
We'll see, man. Like I said, if they wanted me to be involved in some capacity, man, I would definitely be interested.
Sweet.
Well, it's like you said, man. If they couldn't find any cooler person to go work for that's not the NFL after Vince McMahon, it would be Dwayne Johnson. There's literally no one cooler. Like,
no doubt.
There can be no cooler guy after him. That like if it doesn't work for him, it's got to be some nerds that run it because it's over.
I just think too. Look at what The Rock has done. Everything he's been a part of has been successful.
He like saved the Fast and the Furious. Everybody forgets. It wasn't for old Dewey coming in and turning Fast 5 into gold. That was a great friggin' movie.
Yeah, I love that franchise, man.
So do I. Yeah. I'm not complaining by any means. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
The man kept it alive. And
I gotta ask you guys a question then.
Yeah.
Did you guys love Tokyo Drift? Because I know I didn't like Tokyo Drift.
Dude,
that was the only one that was a one-off for me. Like
I've watched Tokyo Drift numerous times, man. If it's on TV, I'm gonna watch it.
That kid is so bad.
All of them. Is that one of the best ones?
I just can't believe that the kid that they had, like they went from, again, not to get weird here, rest in peace, Paul Walker, but you look at the guy. Again, we talk about talent, all right? Any asshole with two eyes looks at Paul Walker for 30 seconds and goes, guy's a star. Okay, I get it. Same way you look at Brad Pitt. I get it. Okay. Then they go from that to this kid who looked like they put, Paul Walker through like they left him on like the tumble setting or something. Like it was like a slightly off kiltered copy of him. And he had no charisma. He had nothing for me. That's my only complaint. I love the car sequence, but I felt like he went from this like super charismatic duo to this guy, from Kentucky and Japan or whatever. Like, not my favorite, but I do enjoy it.
Yeah, it was different. It really was. But like I said, if it's on TV, I'll watch it.
Yeah.
But I think the only one that might have been worse than that was Too Fast, Too Furious.
Oh, yeah. You're right.
Yeah. Well, it's spelled with the 2. That's how you know it's good. I still remember going to see the first one in theaters. And coincidentally, so my parents bought a new minivan. And my brother had just gotten his driver's license. And it was the day that my parents got the minivan. And they were like, take your brother to go see that car movie. in the minivan. So like I have this really weird memory of like taking the minivan to go see Fast and Furious and then coming home in the minivan and being like, yeah, let's fucking go. You know, like let's go slide under some trucks. It was a real special time in my life. Very impactful. Even the Hobbs and Shaw was okay. It was a little weird. They just turned into like a Marvel movie kind of. But I mean, who doesn't love Dwayne Johnson? Come on.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Like I said, I hope they get that up and running for 2021. I think it'll really help a lot of young players.
Oh yeah. Well, like you said, they should have somewhere to play. Like again, Darius Victor. Like thinking about him, like how's a guy like that not gonna get a shot? You know. But then again, talk about quarterbacks. PJ Walker. I keep telling my friends, I'm like, listen, Matt Rule is a sweet ass dude, and my buddy played for him at Temple. And I hear great things. And then PJ Walker had a great season in the XFL. Nobody's looking at him to do anything. And he's going to come in and like if he does sort of what he did in the XFL, everybody's going to be all over PJ Walker like by week 3. I'm hoping
the XFL can do it for you, you know. So
Yep. It's a great. It was a great league. It was a great time. And Matt, this has been an awesome podcast, man. Again, thank you for giving us your time. Love the Underrated Hour. Tell our listeners one last time, how can they check out your podcast, man? What's the best way to keep up with it?
We're on Apple Podcasts, Spotify. We're on YouTube. Right now we do one episode a week. Usually have a guest every week. And it's a different guest every week. Like I said, we've had some people in the wrestling business. We've had, Jason Fitz of ESPN on. We've had James Franklin on. We've had.
He went to my high school. He's in the Chamonix High School.
Okay.
He was the coach there and player that went to school there, and now he's the man.
But yeah, we've had Derek Carr on. Big Ten network analyst Howard Griffith. You know what I mean? So we've had a lot of people involved with football, some people involved with wrestling. So we're trying to change the guests up, every week, trying to make it a little bit different. But yeah, one episode a week. So like I said, the Underrated Hour, Apple Podcast, Spotify, and YouTube.
Awesome. Well, guys, I'm going to put the link to the YouTube and the Apple Podcast. It'll be in the show notes this week. So make sure you check that out. And Matt, it's been a pleasure, man. Thank you so much.
Thanks, guys. Really appreciate it.